Welcome back to New Day. This morning, we remember the life and work of actor Philip Seymour Hoffman. He is famous for his iconic roles in films like Capote and The Master. Hoffman's friends and colleagues remember him as an immensely talented and prolific artist. How he died is also relevant as a reminder of the power of addiction as a disease, and we're going to talk about that this morning. But how the man lived is worthy of praise. And joining us now for more on the actor's legacy is President and Editor-in-Chief of HollywoodLife.com, Bonnie Fuller, along with editor of the Wall Street Journal's arts and culture blog Speakeasy, Mr. Christopher John Farley. It's good to have both of you with us. Obviously, this is going to be seen as sudden by family and those close to him. There is a history involved. But when you look at him as an artist, what makes this man stand out to you?
Oh, he was just an incredibly talented actor and extremely versatile. And the thing is that the Hollywood community is so torn up because he was an actor of such stature. And I don't think anyone's going to forget his Oscar-winning performance in Capote. He completely transformed. He's a big man. He had to become little. He had to change his voice. He did an amazing job.
And well, I know that his addiction issue has been known. I feel like it wasn't often talked about. It still seemed like a surprise. I mean, it was known that he went into rehab for 10 days, but it didn't seem like it was something that he was on some kind of downward spiral.
Well, that's exactly right. You know, not more than a week ago, I was at my son's basketball game in Harlem, and Philip Seymour Hoffman was there, apparently with his son. And I saw him at the sidelines. He was laughing and joking and smiling. I mean, he looked like Philip Seymour Hoffman. He was rumpled. He had, you know, he looked like he needed a shave, but he looked very healthy and happy. And I remember texting my wife saying, you know, Philip Seymour Hoffman's here. This is great. I mean, he's here with his kid. You know, what a supportive dad. And then just yesterday, I'm at the same venue watching my son play, and I get a text, Philip Seymour Hoffman is dead.
But as we know, there's an insidious side to addiction. What you see is not always what's present. There is an entire dynamic of hiding, of evasion, that will probably wind up playing out into this story. But when we think about him as an artist, what do you think? We were hearing from Bonnie about, you know, his ability to transform and all that, but you hear that about actors, but they seem to come out and prize this man for versatility in a way that you don't hear very often. Why?
Well, here's what makes him stand out. Because there are a lot of stars that want to become actors, and they're trying to prove, oh, I really have acting chops, not just about my looks. He was really an actor that didn't care about being a star, didn't care about his appearance on screen, didn't care that his gut was hanging out, didn't care if he appeared unshaven or was playing a character that people just detested. It was all about communicating what was going on inside of the character. It was all about serving the story. And when you have an actor like that, he's going to become beloved in the theater community. I remember seeing him early on, back in the 90s, in a play called Shopping and he was such an incredible presence even then when he was mostly unknown. I couldn't believe the kind of energy that was coming from the stage. I couldn't believe the kind of risk this guy was taking, and he continued that throughout his career.
With all of that in mind, and when you know that he changed himself so much for each of the roles, do you think there is one role that will stand out while people start to look at his legacy?
Well, I think everybody's going to talk about his performance of Death of a Salesman on Broadway because it was such a renowned performance. And also, he was very young for the role. He was only 44 at the time. It was just a couple years ago. And usually, that's a role that's played by much older actors because it's a man who's been through his life and is past his prime. And again, he was able, through his talent, to transform into this older, very worn-out character.
For me, the role is going to be his role as Lester Bangs in Almost Famous, because then he's doing what he does best. I mean, not caring about the outside, a guy who's a little bit, you know, out of control, a little bit, you know, crazy looking, and yet you could see the sentiment there. You could see the emotional connection he had to his music and to the young reporter he's trying to mentor, and that's really Philip Seymour Hoffman at his best. It's not his movie, but it becomes his movie in the scenes he's in.
He steals those moments.
He definitely does. He steals the movie.
How much of the artistry wound up being a function of the character and personality? What is our degree of insight to know that that which was conflict within him, right, which obviously motivated the disease, was also something that he was able to bring into his work? Do we know that? Sometimes flawed inside winds up bringing genius outside.
Well, you know, one of my reporters, Barbara Chai, actually talked to him just about his work and his connection to his work. And he's a guy that poured himself into his work. He told her that he was someone who really couldn't control his life when he was working on stage or in a movie. He wasn't that kind of person that could organize his life while he was managing his art. He had to separate the two. He had to focus on what was really mattered to him, his art, and then go back to trying to organize his life when things were over. Clearly, that's something that might have gotten out of control here at the end of his life.
Right, and I used the wrong word. It's not flaw, it's the eccentricity. It's what makes him singular as a person. He had his trouble, but he also had his triumphs, long-time partnership, successful father with kids that we hear. So he was able to accomplish a lot in life beyond his work. But obviously, this is just hard news from a man who has gone way too soon in the thick of his career, in the thick of his life. I mean, that's really just where we have to leave it for now. As we learn more about this, I guess we want to make sure to balance and not jade his legacy with what we learn about what took his life, although that's an important part of the analysis.
And he still has movies coming out, so we'll still see him in the last 2 movies of The Hunger Games.
And apparently he hasn't finished, he didn't finish all of his scenes, so there's going to be a problem there. Apparently he finished all of them for the 3rd movie, but there's a 4th to come. And I think it's really interesting that at the end of his life, he finally had a huge blockbuster film and became known to younger audiences and broader mass audiences. Not just for the meanwhile, for a long, long time. Better believe it. Whenever you're not in my presence.